Hi everyone, so on today's TaxSnax episode, I will just be giving a brief overview on the VAT changes that have come in from private schools and also the business rate relief changes. So this was kind of a change that was a bit expected because it had kind of been already talked about and mentioned. So it's not something that's come as a great shock, but it has been decided to have gone through with. So essentially, the tax breaks for private schools will end. And now the standard 20% VAT rate will be applied to private school fees from the 1st of January 2025. So this kind of what it takes in private schools, and the education services for the purposes of this are broadly defined and is as including boarding services offered by independent schools, which many had previously thought that boarding services would be out of the scope, but they're not. And this also means that any fees, this is quite an important part, which were paid from the 29th of July 2024, relating to the term starting in January 2025 and onwards, will be subject to VAT. So anything that has been paid prior to that date or from July 2024 is going to be subject to VAT. Some private schools are probably already registered, but those that aren't will need to register for education and boarding fees, and they need to do so before the 1st of January. So the finance bill has also recently been published, and the section that deals with this is section 47 and 48. So one question that a lot of people have is, are all the fees going to go up by 20%? Well, this is unlikely, as most private schools have said that there's some of them are probably going to bear the burden a little bit of the changes. And the government stats say that the fees are only likely to go up for 10%. But that's still a significant amount. One of the main considerations has been about children with special educational needs and disabilities. And the government has essentially says that if the local authority funds pupils' places in private schools, for example, pupils whose needs are not met in state schools, and then the local authority funds their places in private schools, then that local authority will be able to reclaim the VAT that they charged on the fees of these pupils via the VAT refund schemes. And so this is helpful for the parents and carers of the pupils which have local authority funded places in private schools. However, this doesn't really apply for any parents who are paying for it themselves. So anyone who is choosing to send their kids but has to because they have special educational needs and disabilities, VAT will be applied to their fees, and that isn't something that they can claim back. As a clear point, the VAT policy is a reserved policy, so this is a change that's going to affect private schools across the UK. Now, it did say that the policy is only going to capture sort of education services, so things such as school meals, transport, books and stationery will be exempt from VAT, but any extracurricular sports or anything provided, those are still going to be within. Another challenge that has kind of come up is small faith schools. So, those schools are not going to be exempt, and they're going to also have to pay VAT. As I mentioned previously, any prepayments, so HMRC have said, the government has said that HMRC are going to be looking to challenge any prepayments which had been made maybe as part of like a plan or a bundle to pay the fees in advance of the changes coming in. So the tax had not been passed yet on those schemes, so it's important to note that those schemes probably will be looked into if any of those were taken advantage of. Just to reiterate, so any fees that had been paid from 29 July 2024 for the term starting in Jan 2025 going to be subject to VAT. So obviously the schools will need to register before the 1st of January, and the government has said that there's going to be help provided in terms of that. The other aspect that we're that has changed is also business rates. So business rates are a tax that apply to all non-domestic properties in England, unless they're specifically exempt from rating. And now private schools that are charities will no longer be eligible to claim charitable rates relief and will be required to pay their full business rates liability. As the business rates policy is devolved, this will only apply to private schools in England. So quite a lot of changes there, and I think a lot of people are possibly not happy as it's quite a big hike, depending on what private school fees will be charged, and maybe one that we were prepared for. However, there is a legal challenge that is being brought against it. So the Independent School Council, a body which includes most independent schools in the UK, has voted to take legal action against this. So Lord Panic KC is going to lead the challenge, which will be brought on behalf of parents, including those children with special educational needs and disabilities, and they're bringing a claim for breach of the European Convention on Human Rights under around Article 14, their prohibition of discrimination, and Article 2 of the first protocol, the right to education. And they're saying they're going to be defending the rights of family who basically have chosen independent education but may not be able to do so anymore as a result of VAT on their fees. So it's quite a big change, but one that we expected. We'll have to see what happens once it's taken to court, and it's likely that they're trying to say that it's expedited, so it's done faster. So maybe it will be heard prior to Jan 2025, so 1st Jan 2025, the legal challenge, and it remains to be seen what will happen of that. The government has basically said that the reason they're doing is so that they can use the funding, put it into state schools, and they essentially think, as 94%, the stats provided by the government, 94% of pupils are in state schools, it's not going to affect a large amount of pupils, which obviously is it's still a significant amount, especially the amounts being charged also. So it remains to be seen what the legal challenge might bring. As I said, the finance bill provides us the legislation in section 47 and 48. So you'll find it in the value added tax section, which says section 47 will deal with the removal of private school VAT fees. And then you have exceptions provided under Part 3. It provides the meaning of a private school, and also provides us with what counts as an eligible body. And yes, so nursery for the purposes of so it's detailed enough to what we had before, the draft legislation. But there's a section for 48 which is changes on prepaid private school fees, which is quite important, and subsection 2 applies to the provision of education during a school term if a payment in respect of the services was received by a person providing the services on or after 29 July and before 30th October. They're going to treat that as for the purposes of VAT taking place after the 1st of Jan 2025, and so that accordingly that provision is not to be required. It's going to be charged for the VAT, so they're bringing that in, and they have stated that section 47 and 48 are to be treated as coming into force on the 30th of October 2024, and have in effect relation to any provisions of education, vocational training and board and lodging on or after 1st of January 2025. So there we have that. It's obviously a big change, and one that's going to significantly affect a group of people. But as I said, it will be interesting to see what the legal challenge brings and whether there's any changes following that. It'll be interesting to hear that. But there's obviously it's important to know, though, whilst it's not the fees rising by 20%, so the schools may cover some aspect of that, but the significance of the amount is quite large. So it will be interesting to just keep an eye on the legal challenge, and as Lord Panic is heading with that, I think it will be an important one to have a watch on, and one that we I guess, expected. And I guess the one aspect is, that the local authority funded SEND pupils will be able to claim their 20% back, but any other parents who are choosing to pay will not be able to. So that's also something that has been, discussed in greatly. But yeah, we'll see what happens next, if there's any other updates on this. But I hope that's been a short and brief, helpful summary of the VAT changes that have come in as a result on private schools, and the business rates relief as a result of the budget in 2024. Thanks very much.